Hello everyone, and welcome to Team FM, the only bilingual podcast in Vietnam with both English and Vietnamese subtitles. For those tuning in for the first time, this is the podcast where we talk about personal finance, investing, career journeys, and the everyday stories of life. This podcast airs every Saturday evening. It's not about how much you make cuisine, about how you keep it and make it grow. That determines whether you get richer or poorer. That's one of the key lessons I've learned from over a decade as a business leader and investment advisor, working alongside startup founders and board members of companies backed by private equity funds and venture capital firms, both in Vietnam and abroad. Whether you earn 50 million or 50 billion Vietnam dong, these are the very strategies the top 1% use to grow and protect their wealth. And the best part, anyone can apply them. The difference is, these are things our parents or schools never taught us. And in this episode, I will share the 15-65-20 system, a simple, proven method to help you manage your money like a pro. Let's start with the most important part, Nhun 150,000 Vietnam dong. That the amount you should set aside for yourself from every million you earn. This is where real long-term financial security begins, and there are three powerful reasons for doing it. The first, peace of mind. Picture this, you're having a normal workday when suddenly your motorbike tire bursts on the road, your child spikes a high fever and needs urgent care, or you get a call about an emergency back home. Without a solid emergency fund or savings cushion, you are not just stressed about the incident, they're stressed about how to pay for it. This can quickly derail your finances and throw you into chaos, but not if you have that 15% safety cushion. Start by building an emergency fund you can access instantly, enough to cover 1 month of essential expenses. This is your first line of defense against life and small surprises, and that monthly cost is often less than you think. It does include luxuries like Netflix, Spotify, pricey postpaid phone plan, or fancy weekend coffees. Core expenses are simply rent or mortgage, daily meals, transport, electricity, water, and internet. From that 1 month base, gradually grow your cushion until it covers 3 to 6 months of core expenses. This emergency fund gives you total peace of mind, knowing that if something big happens, like losing your job, a serious health issue, or any unexpected crisis, you're left protected and want to need to go into debt to handle it. Having 3 to 6 months of essential expenses saved means you can focus on tackling the emergency itself rather than stressing about how to pay for it. The second reason for saving that 15% is to make your money work for you. As Warren Buffett famously said, but if you don't to find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. That trend the power of letting your money make more money. And you don't need to be a financial expert to start. In fact, you might already be doing it without realizing. First, let me show you why this is so powerful and how to begin even if you are brand new. Imagine two people, Lan and Deep. At 25, Lan made the investment of a lifetime, putting 200 million Vietnam dong into a fund earning 8% a year. She joked, but this was my wedding fund. But if the wedding gene late, I will let the money marry money. And true to her plan, Lan left that money untouched for 20 years. In that time, it quietly grew interest upon interest. By the time she turned 45, her initial 200 million Vietnam dong had blossomed into about 932 million. Deep, on the other hand, for the first 10 years, from age 25 to 35, invested entirely in land, birthday gifts, fancy dinners, premium coffee dates, VIP karaoke nights. Basically, his money went out faster than bank interest could grow. By age 35, Deep had a wake-up call, but this want to work, I need to invest. He went big, putting in 300 million Vietnam dong at once, 1.5 times Lenin's initial capital, into an 8% per year investment, leaving it there for 10 years. But when they both turned 45, Deep opened his account, and oh no, His 300 million had only grown to 647 million. Meanwhile, Lan, who started with much less, was sitting on 932 million. Deep scratched his head. But wait, I put in more. How did I lose? Lan laughed. But because I let my money work longer. I invested early, and my interest earned more interest over and over, while you spent your first 10 years letting interest drift away with flowers and candles. The Thai, in investing, time is your strongest ally, not just your starting capital. And if you want to buy flowers, let the interest pay for them. Romantic and cost-free. This is what Einstein meant when he called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. The longer your money works for you, the more it can multiply. It's like planting a mango tree at first. You only get a few fruits, but next year, seeds from those fruits grow into new trees, and those trees bear even more fruit year after year. So where do you start? If you have a formal job with a contract and social insurance, congratulations, you're already getting free money from your company that many people overlook. According to Vietnam Re 2014 Social Insurance Law, Article 85 requires you to contribute 8% of your salary each month to the Retirement and Survivorship Fund. Article 86 states your company must add another 14% into that exact same fund for you. That means if your social insurance salary is 10 million Viet Nai Dong, you contribute 800,000, and the company is legally required to add 1.4 million more. No begging, no salary negotiations. This is mandated by law. The result? Each month, your retirement fund actually receives 2.2 million Viet Dong, over 63% of which is essentially other people and money going into your pocket. So next time you get your payslip, remember, beyond the amount you see, somewhere in the background, your company is quietly sending money to your future. Secondly, in Vietnam, you can take advantage of a voluntary pension fund, DA long-term retirement savings plan with tax benefits. Each month, you can contribute up to 1 million Viet Dong and deduct it from your taxable income. The fund manager invests this money in bonds and stocks, earning an average annual return of 5 to 12%. Depending on the portfolio. For more flexibility, you can choose an open-ended fund that invests in a basket of multiple stocks or bonds. For example, an open-ended fund tracking the top 30 companies on Vietnamese stock exchange might yield 9 to 14% annually, though it fluctuates with the market. A bond fund is more stable, averaging 5 to 7% per year. Both options have been operating in Vietnam for over a decade and are clearly regulated by law. To make this clearer, let you return to Lan and Diep. Lan decides to contribute 2 million Viet Dong each month to a voluntary pension fund, invested in bonds and stocks, earning an average of 8% annually, and importantly, she can designate her own beneficiary. Deep doesn't want his money locked up, so he also sets aside 2 million a month, but in a safe savings account earning 5% annually. After 30 years, Lan has nearly 3 billion Viet Dong, while Deep has about 1.6 billion, same monthly contribution. But Lan ends up with over 1.3 billion more than the app, thanks to choosing a more effective investment channel and sticking with it. Another big difference with social insurance: if you don't meet the requirements for a pension and unfortunately pass away, the money you will paid into the retirement and survivorship fund want to be returned to your family, except for a small survivor benefit set by law, which is far less than what you contributed. But with a voluntary pension fund or an open-ended fund, all your principal and interest will go to the beneficiary you named from the start. The lesson: time plus compound interest is magic, and choosing the right vehicle lets you build wealth effectively while ensuring your assets go to your loved ones if something happens to you. Once you've set up those tax-advantaged accounts and contribute regularly, you can let those passive funds run on their own. No need to constantly tweak or try to beat the market. Just set it and forget it. This is truly the lazy person dream path to wealth, and it's a strategy used by some of the most successful investors in the world. I share these examples and methods solely to help you understand how to accumulate wealth more effectively I'm not selling stocks or getting paid by any company. In fact, the top 1% in Vietnam are using these methods extensively. Why? Because they safe, legally protected, offer better returns than bank deposits, and can outpace inflation in the long run. I will repeat once more, always keep 50% of your income for an emergency fund. Before we move to the next part, let me leave you with this question. But if tomorrow you faced a financial crisis, would you have enough in your emergency fund to get by for 3 to 6 months without borrowing? Now, let's talk about the next 65%. That's the portion of every million Viet Dong you earn that should go toward essential living expenses each month. The cost that if left unpaid would disrupt your life. This includes rent or mortgage payments, daily food expenses, electricity, water, internet, fuel or bus fares, parking fees, cooking gas, building maintenance fees, school fees for your children, health insurance, and other essentials to keep the household running smoothly. And this is often the toughest part, because these expenses tend to creep up beyond your control, sometimes without you even noticing. You know the story. Many people, the moment they get a raise, start thinking their current apartment is too small, so they upgrade to a fancier one, or swap their motorbike for a scooter, or even upgrade to a car. It might feel like a lifestyle is bonanza leveling up, but in reality it can backfire if those upgrades mean much higher rent, service fees, fuel costs, maintenance, and insurance than before. Your expenses will almost always rise to match your income unless you actively fight it. And that's where setting a hard limit on your core expenses makes a huge difference. The 65% limit keeps your core expenses in check, so you not struggling just to cover the basics. And I want to leave. This is often easier said than done, especially if you are living in an expensive city. According to Vietnam Min 2022 Household Living Standards Survey, the average spending breakdown for urban households is food and beverage 35%, the largest share, housing, utilities, and gas. Service fees 19%, healthcare and education were 20%, transportation were 14%, and entertainment and other services 12%. Food and beverages remain the biggest chunk. So think about it. How much are you spending on those unnecessary coffee runs, bubble tea cravings, or little snacks you didn't really need? If you can't remember by now, it's in time to start tracking every expense. Review your own spending and write down your biggest expense categories. Once you know where your money is going, it's much easier to unbias the biggest chunks, because trimming just 1 to 2% from your largest expenses is far more entailed than cutting small minor costs. It's not about cutting out the little joys in life. It's about keeping your unavoidable big expenses under control. That way, your budget has more room for the things you truly enjoy. To help you picture the power of keeping essential costs low and the power of investing, let's return to Lan and Deep. After 1 year of working, Lan found a way to increase her income from 10 million to 15 million Viet Dong per month. But she stayed disciplined, keeping her essential spending at 6.5 million, just like when her salary was only 10 million. All the extra income went straight into investments, compounding at 8% per year. Dip, on the other hand, got a raise from 20 to 25 million and immediately moved into a new condo, bought a fancy bike, dined at upscale restaurants, and showered Lon with expensive gifts. As a result, his essential spending jumped from 13 million to 19.5 million per month, leaving him with far less to invest than Lan. 10 years later, Lan comfortably looked at her investment account, 0.5 billion Viet Dong, while Deep, despite starting with almost double her income, only had 1 billion. Landian assets were now 1.5 times his. Eventually, feeling the income gap was too great to bridge, Lan realized she could support Deep and married whom instead. A man with 3 billion in savings, leaving Deep alone with nothing but a box of tissues. Watching the Thai koi here. Maintain a stable lifestyle. Let your surplus work for you, and compound interest will handle the rest. Now I have a question for you. But if it were you, would you choose to live like Lan or like Deep? Do you see yourself more as Lan or as Deep in this story? Leave a comment below to share your answer with me. And now, the final 20% piece is where the joy begins. In the book Die with Zero, Đắng, the author shares a truly powerful idea that I absolutely love. The ultimate goal isn't tự tô die with a massive bank account, but to use your money to create a rich and fulfilling life. The top 1% know this secret. They intentionally carve out space in their budget to enjoy life without guilt. And you should too, because working without rest is the fastest route to burnout. And research shows that people who allow themselves a little flexibility in their budget are far more likely to stick to their financial goals over the long run. It Jen, like following a strict diet, you never allow yourself a cheat meal. Eventually, you will break and bend. The same principle applies to money. Now you might be thinking, but want to throw off my saving and investing? Then absolutely not. In fact, it's probably the opposite. If you don't to set aside a guilt-free spending allowance, you are far more likely to overspend later, or worse, abandon saving and investing altogether. That's why the 15-65-20 rule recommends allocating 20% of your income to joy, enjoyment, and personal fulfillment. In fact, you can even reframe this 20% as an investment in yourself. By keeping yourself motivated, balanced, and energized, you are actually increasing your chances of sticking to your long-term financial plans. So in practice, this might mean treating yourself to a fancy hot pot at Haidilao Lao once a month, or finally buying that new iPhone you've had your eye on for ages, or simply plan a trip to Dalat or Phu Quoc with your closest friends to de-stress and recharge. The key is to allow yourself to enjoy that 20% of your income without guilt or shame. So, if you suddenly had a 20% self-reward budget each month, what would you do first? Travel team, grab your backpack and head to Dalat, Phu Quoc, or anywhere else to recharge your energy. Foodies, book that fancy seafood buffet, hot pot barbecue, or a rooftop cafe for the perfect Instagram shot. Shoppers, get that new phone, luxury, watch, or the item you've been dreaming about for ages. And you? Will you spend it right away to enjoy life or set aside part of it to save? Comment your answer below. Let's see which team wins. Who knows? After reading others' comments, you might come up with a way to spend money that both fun and smart. Those are my top tips for managing money. Now the top 1% based on the 15-65-20 rule. The most important thing isn't to just how much you earn, but how much you keep, how you invest it, and how disciplined you remain over the long run. If you apply even a part of these principles, I believe that within just a few years, you would see a significant change in your personal finance, not just in your account balance, but in your peace of mind and freedom of choice in life. If you found this video helpful, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss future episodes where I will share more about personal investing, career growth, and tips for living financially free. And I do love to hear from you. Among the 3 rules we covered today, which one will you apply first? Leave a comment below. I read them all and will reply to each one. Thank you for spending your time listening, and see you in next week in Tim FM episode where I will talk about the question, at what asset level does the rapid growth cycle really begin?